Hey there, I'm Michael Anderson. Just your average 40-year-old history teacher living the suburban dream in Boston with my wife, Lisa, and our son, Ethan. Ethan's a smart kid minus 17 and already setting his sights on Ivy League schools. Since the day he was born, I've been stashing away money for his college fund, dreaming of him walking across some prestigious campus. Life was good. I'd come home from teaching teenagers about the Civil War, and Lisa would be there, usually on the phone with her sister, Vanessa. Now, Vanessa was a whole different story. She had a talent for burning through money faster than a teenager with a credit card. Always calling Lisa with some new crisis, car trouble, maxed out credit cards. It was like a broken record. I tried to keep the peace because, well, family is family. But every time Vanessa called, my blood pressure spiked. One night, I was sitting at the kitchen table with a calculator, going over Ethan's college fund. He's been talking about schools like Harvard and Yale, so I wanted to see where we stood. That's when I noticed something wasn't right. The numbers didn't add up. At first, I thought I was just tired, maybe had too much coffee, but no matter how many times I checked, the math was off. "Hey, Lisa," I called out. She walked in, still on the phone with, you guessed it, Vanessa. "What's up?" she asked, covering a mouthpiece. "These college fund numbers look off. Did we make any withdrawals?" Her face froze. It was like watching a deer in headlights. Maybe it's a bank error," she said, trying to play it off. But I knew something was wrong. She quickly mumbled something to Vanessa and hung up. But the damage was done. Doubt was already creeping in. "Lisa, what's going on?" I asked, trying to keep calm. "Nothing, Michael. You're probably just tired. Let's look at it in the morning," she said, brushing it off. But I couldn't let it go. I stayed up late, combing through bank statements. The more I dug, the worse it got. Thousands of dollars had been transferred to an account I didn't recognize. My stomach turned. This was Ethan's future at stake. The next morning, I confronted Lisa. "I need to know what's happening with our son's college fund." My voice was barely above a whisper. She broke down in tears. "I'm so sorry, Michael. Vanessa needed help. Her daughter, Megan, wanted to study abroad, and they couldn't afford it. I thought we could spare it." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All those years of saving, and Lisa had just handed the money over to Vanessa. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. The next morning, I went straight to the bank. The teller, a young guy named Jake, looked at me with sympathy as I explained the situation. "Mr. Anderson, I can see multiple transfers from your account over the past year. The most recent was a large sum, $155,000. My heart sank. "Can you tell me where it went?" Jake hesitated. "I'm sorry, sir. I can't disclose that without the account holder's consent. I am the account holder. It's my son's college fund." "I understand, but the transfers were authorized by a joint account holder, your wife, Lisa Anderson." The drive home was a blur. I burst through the door, finding Lisa in the kitchen. "Want to tell me why you've been draining our son's future?" Her face went pale. "Michael, I can explain." "Explain what?" "How you've been stealing from Ethan." "It's not stealing. Vanessa needed help. Megan got into an amazing study abroad program." I cut her off. "Megan's 14, Lisa. What kind of program takes middle schoolers?" Her silence said it all. I grabbed my laptop, furiously typing. A few clicks later, and there it was, Megan's social media, flooded with pictures of her lounging on Mediterranean beaches, shopping in Paris, partying. Some study program. "This isn't studying, Lisa. This is a luxury vacation." Lisa broke down. Vanessa was in trouble. She said if Megan didn't get this opportunity, she'd fall into the wrong crowd. I was just trying to help. "And what about our family? What about Ethan's dreams?" Just then, Ethan walked in. Dad? Mom? What's going on? I couldn't bear to tell him. Nothing, buddy. Just a misunderstanding about finances. But he was too smart for that. He looked between us, sensing the tension. Is this about my college fund? Lisa rushed to reassure him. Don't worry, sweetie. Everything's fine. But I couldn't keep the truth in any longer. No, it's not fine. Your mother has been taking money from your college fund to support your aunt. Ethan's face fell. What? But all my hard work, my grades, was it all for nothing? Lisa tried to comfort him, but he backed away. We'll figure it out, honey. I promise. I wasn't done. How long has this been going on, Lisa? And don't lie to me. Not again. She couldn't meet my eyes. A few years. But it started small, just a little here and there. I felt like I was drowning. A few years? What else have you been hiding? Her silence was deafening. Then, a ping from her phone. A message flashed on the screen. Can't wait to see you tonight. Love, David. My world shattered. Who's David? Lisa's face crumpled. He's just a colleague. But I knew everything. The late nights at the office, the secret phone calls, the sudden attention to her appearance. It all made sense now. A colleague? Is that what we're calling it now? I said, my voice heavy with disbelief. Ethan stood between us, his face etched with confusion and hurt. Mom, what's Dad talking about? He asked, his voice trembling. But Lisa couldn't respond. She just stood there, tears streaming down her face as everything we built together unraveled before us. I turned to Ethan, my heart breaking for him. Pack a bag, son. We're going to stay at Uncle Rob's for a while. As we walk out the door, I could hear Lisa's muffled sobs. But I couldn't bring myself to look back. The woman I thought I knew, the life I thought we had, it was all a lie. Now I had to figure out how to pick up the pieces and salvage a future for my son. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Ethan and I crashed at my brother Rob's place while I tried to clear my head. One morning, over a cup of Rob's terrible coffee, he gave me a reality check. Mike, you can't just sit here stewing. You need a game plan. He was right. I called up my old college buddy Steve, who'd become a hotshot divorce lawyer. Michael, buddy, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Let's meet and talk strategy. In Steve's office, surrounded by law books and the faint smell of leather, I laid everything out on the table. So what's our move? I asked, feeling completely lost. Steve leaned forward, his eyes sharp. We document everything. Every transfer, every lie, every indiscretion. We build an airtight case. As we talked, my phone buzzed. Lisa again. I hit ignore. You need to think about Ethan's future, Steve continued. Have you considered relocating? That sparked an idea. I reached out to my old mentor, Dr. Harrison, now the headmaster at Westridge Academy in Seattle. Michael, my boy, it's been too long. He said warmly when I called. A position, you say? Well, as luck would have it. Things were falling into place, but I couldn't shake the anger. Vanessa's scam had to be exposed. So I made an anonymous tip to the Department of Education about her fraudulent study abroad program. Back at Rob's, Ethan was struggling. Dad, why can't we just go home? Maybe if we talk to Mom. I sat beside him on the worn-out couch. Son, sometimes things can't be fixed. But I promised you, your future is still bright. But what about college? All that money. We'll figure it out. I've got a lead on a job in Seattle. How do you feel about the West Coast? Ethan's eyes widened. Seattle? But what about my friends? My school? I know it's a lot, but think of it as a fresh start. And hey, maybe you'll end up at the University of Washington. I hear they got a great computer science program. That got a small smile out of him. The next day, I met Lisa at a neutral coffee shop. The tension between us was thick enough to cut with a knife. Michael, please, can't we work this out? For Ethan's sake, she pleaded. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. Lisa, you didn't just betray me. You betrayed our son. His future. I was trying to help family, she protested. And what are we? Chopped liver? I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. By the way, how's David? Her face crumpled. It's not what you think. Save it. I've already talked to a lawyer. And Lisa, you might want to lawyer up too. I hear your firm is looking into some discrepancies. Her face went pale. What did you do? I stood up, tossing a few bills on the table. What you should have done. The right thing. As I walked out, my phone pinged. It was an email from Westridge Academy, offering me the position. That night, as Ethan and I packed our bags for our Seattle adventure, I felt a strange mix of sadness and hope. We were leaving behind a life built on lies. But heading towards a future full of possibilities, I turned to Ethan. You ready for this, kiddo? I asked, ruffling his hair. He gave me a determined nod, his eyes clear. Yeah, Dad, let's do this. As we loaded the car for our move, I caught a glimpse of Lisa standing across the street, tears in her eyes. There was a time when seeing her like that would have broken me, but I didn't waver. The road ahead was long, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like we were on the right path. The day I served Lisa with divorce papers felt surreal. She sat at the kitchen table, her face crumpling as she read through the documents, realization dawning on her. Michael, please. We can work this out, she pleaded, desperation in her voice. I shook my head. It's too late, Lisa. The trust is gone. As I turned to leave, her voice stopped me. What about Ethan? He needs his mother. He needs honesty and stability, something you couldn't give him. The next few months were chaotic. Lisa's law firm launched an investigation into her finances, uncovering years of misconduct. One day, her former colleague, Tom, called me. Mike, I don't know how to say this, but Lisa's been disbarred. There might be criminal charges. I felt a mix of vindication and sadness. Thanks for letting me know, Tom. Meanwhile, Vanessa's fraudulent study abroad scheme exploded into a public scandal. Her face was plastered across news outlets. One evening, I overheard Ethan talking to his cousin Megan. I'm so sorry, Megan. I had no idea, Ethan said, his voice soft. It's not your fault. Are you okay? Megan's voice cracked over the line. Ethan looked at me, his eyes full of confusion. I pulled him into a hug. Sometimes, kid, the people we love make big mistakes. But we'll get through this. Our move to Seattle was a breath of fresh air. Westridge Academy welcomed me warmly, and Dr. Harrison introduced me to the faculty. Everyone, please welcome Michael Anderson, our new American history teacher. Michael, care to say a few words? I cleared my throat, smiling. I'm honored to be here. Looking forward to shaping young minds and maybe learning a thing or two myself. Ethan thrived in his new school. One afternoon, he ran into our apartment, waving a letter in his hand. Dad, I got in. Full ride to UO. I grabbed him in a bear hug, my heart swelling with pride. I knew you could do it, son. That night, as we celebrated, I couldn't help but reflect on our journey. The betrayal, the pain, but also the strength we'd found. Months later, Rob called with news. Mike, you might want to sit down for this. Lisa's facing jail time. The embezzlement charges. It's not looking good. I sighed, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Thanks for letting me know, Rob. How's she holding up? Not great. She's lost everything. Her career, her family. After hanging up, I found Ethan in his room, poring over college brochures. Hey, kiddo. Got a minute? We talked about Lisa, about forgiveness, about moving forward. His maturity amazed me. "Dad, I'm angry at Mom, but I don't hate her. Is that okay?" I hugged him tight. "That's more than okay, son. It's what makes you you." Later, I stood on the balcony, looking out over the Seattle skyline. A sense of peace washed over me. We'd been through hell, but we'd come out stronger. Ethan was heading toward a bright future, and I had a new lease on life. The road hadn't been easy, but standing there, I knew we'd made it. We'd survived the betrayal, cut out the toxicity, and built something beautiful from the ashes of our old life. And that, I realized, was the greatest triumph of all. What would you do if you discovered your spouse had betrayed your child's future? Share your thoughts below.